before you get the big squash, the yellow track. So you can, in Bengal, they take that and they make pakoras from that. It's very nice. But you get one little pakora instead of one big squash. Anyway, Vishwanath Thakur says that. Why Krishna says that? Because the devotee, if he's feeding Krishna and he offers Krishna a flower, Krishna is so overwhelmed with love for the devotee. The devotee is offering me such devotee. He doesn't notice it's a flower, and he just eats it also. And then, I believe it's in Madhvacharya's commentary, or it's in Madhva Sampradaya, that when Krishna says, one offers me water, that means that there was someone from Madhva Sampradaya who told me, but I'm not exactly sure which Acharya in their line said that this means that the devotee offers his tears of love. That's the water that Krishna wants. So actually, tears are supposed to be contaminated. If the water comes from your eye and goes in the offering, it's supposed to contaminate. But Krishna saying that's very nice. So there are many nice things in Bhagavad Gita. Which verse are we on tonight? 8:22. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. Chapter 8, text 22. This chapter of Bhagavad Gita is titled Attaining the Supreme. There is a common controversy as to whether the Supreme is personal or impersonal. In the verses preceding this, Krishna has described the nature of the spiritual world. And just previous to that, he's been describing the nature of the material world. How this material existence is created and destroyed again and again. And he's saying this just to give some idea why we should desire to attain that place where we're not created and destroyed to suffer again and again and again. So after describing the material situation, Krishna says, Parastasmatu bhavanyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Yet there is another nature which is unmanifest. It is eternal and transcendental, this manifested and unmanifested matter. You said the whole verse. Yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashatsu navinashuti. That you read the whole verse?
No.
No, only. So the next half then. That when all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is, because it is sanatan. It is eternal. And then Krishna goes on to again use the word avyakta to describe this transcendental abode. This is in the verse previous to the one we're reading today. He says it is avyakta and akshara. Avyakta means unmanifested, and akshara here Prabhupada has translated as infallible, although it's one of those words that can be translated in various ways. A is the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, and Ksha is an extra symbol, which is the last letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. So it also means that Akshara also means that which comprises everything. So these words avyakta and akshara, they are often taken by the impersonal. They're taken by the impersonalists to mean that which is impersonal. They are very fond of this kind of word. Krishna says, Avyaktakshara ityuktas tamahu paramam gatim. They say that which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that is the supreme destination. Vedantist means they're generally impersonalists. When we say Vedantist, actually the real Vedantist is a Bhakti Vedanti, one who knows that the end of all knowledge is Bhakti. Oh, alright. Okay. So that I was saying it in Sanskrit.
Uh-huh.
Alright, he was going to say it in Czech. So then, yang prapya nanivartante, having gone to that supreme position, one never comes back, which Krishna has already stated in this chapter. And he's saying this, repeating this in contrast to the situation in the material world in which we always have to come back again and again and again. And then Krishna makes the point, Yang prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That is my supreme abode. This puts the impersonalists into an awkward position in trying to sustain their philosophy. Because Krishna says that is my supreme abode. And Krishna already at the very beginning, he stated that Natvevahang jatunasang natvang neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishama sarvevaya matapra. That myself, yourself, all these kings, we are all existing eternally. So Krishna says that his abode is transcendental to this material world and that he's eternally existing. And he also has said previous to this, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna. Both you and I have had many births. So all these, that Krishna has his own supreme abode which is transcendental to the cosmic manifestation, and that he has had many births, and that he is eternal, are very difficult concepts to reconcile for the Mayavadis, who just take it to mean that it's all some kind of allegorical language, and just whatever they hear, they just subordinate it to the presumed fact that everything is ultimately impersonal. However, Krishna further qualifies his position in the verse we're reading today, in which he says that Supreme Person, Purushasa Paraparta, of whom no one is greater, Bhaktya Labhyas Tvananyaya, he is attainable only by pure devotion. And Yasyantas Thani Bhutani Yena Sarvamidam Tatam, that everything in existence is within him and he pervades everything. Now, previous to this, Krishna has also made a similar statement. Ayatatamidam sarvam jagada vyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachahante shvavastita. Krishna says that this whole universe is pervaded by me in my unmanifested form. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So now Krishna is saying the same thing, but he's qualifying that who is that person in which everything exists and who pervades everything? That is the Supreme Person. Now it's interesting that in the previous verse, Krishna was speaking in the first person, Tadhama Paramam Mama, that is my Supreme Abode. And now he's speaking in the third person, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, that Supreme Person is Krishna speaking about himself, is understood from the fact that he's already explained, Mayata Tamidam Sarvam, everything is pervaded by me. So you may ask, why does Krishna say the Supreme Personality of Godhead? As it almost sounds as if he's talking about someone else. Later in the Gita we find that also. Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. Tameva Sharanam Gacha Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Take full shelter of him in all respects, O Bharat. So why is Krishna speaking like that? As take shelter of that Supreme Person. Well, let's give an example. We have just like in a state there's a Prime Minister. Do you have a Prime Minister in this country? So he's a Prime Minister, that's his position. But apart from being the Prime Minister, he's also a specific individual person, whose name I probably won't be able to pronounce. What is it? Yeah, okay, well okay, so the Prime Minister in Britain is Tony Blair, that's right, yeah. Okay. I can remember that name with a little prompting. So he may give a speech in the Parliament, or he may speak, and he may say that the Prime Minister's direction should be followed. In other words, he's referring to himself, but he's referring to his position and the principle that is connected with his position. Or let's give an example. Just like the local GBC may come and some devotees, they're protesting about this or that, and he says that, he may say, well, Prabhupada wanted that the local GBC, the devotees should follow the local GBC. So in other words, he's not saying that you should follow me, but because I have this position, you should follow me. So in the same way, Krishna is speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is Himself, and unlike positions in this material world such as Prime Minister or GBC, which the post may stay the same but the person may change, Krishna is always God. He doesn't ever cease to be God. However, Krishna is describing about Himself, but He's explaining about His position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That we also do in our preaching, when we don't immediately start telling people that, well, Krishna is playing a flute and He's going with the cows, and they have no idea, who is this Krishna? So many people with flutes and cows. And if we say, well, He's the most lovable person, and they may think, oh, but they don't have any concept of what it means to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is establishing the desirability of going to the place of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who happens to be Himself. Prabhupada sometimes used to use that language. Krishna happens to be the Supreme Personality of God. Prabhupada has a very charming way of writing. So Krishna is establishing that the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternal. What is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He is all-pervading, and everything is situated within Him. So that poses another puzzle. How the Supreme Lord's abode is, He has His own abode. He has His own place. Yet He's saying, Tadhama paramam mama. I have my abode which is eternal, my place, that's my particular place. But I'm also all-pervading and everything is within me. Obviously this isn't very easy to understand. You can try to understand by logic, but it won't work. And Krishna also states in this verse how this can be understood. Ananya bhakti, bhaktya labhyastva ananyaya. One-pointed, Prabhupada used the word unalloyed devotion. So the Supreme Person can be understood by unalloyed devotion, which begins with faith. That's why we see that Krishna is explaining all this philosophy to Arjuna, because Arjuna has some basic faith. He had many doubts, but he had a basic faith in Krishna. Therefore he was a suitable person to speak Bhagavad Gita too. So that may sound contradictory, that he had some basic faith but he had doubts also. Just like that he asked Krishna that, how is it, Krishna said, I spoke to the sun god. How did you speak to the sun god? He expressed a doubt. He had a doubt, that means his understanding wasn't full, and therefore he had a doubt. But his basic faith was that Krishna can explain everything to me. After hearing from Krishna, Arjuna said to Krishna, Sarvam etadritang manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. O Krishna, I accept everything that you tell me. So that was Arjuna's basic attitude. He had the basic faith in Krishna, even though he had doubts, because he hadn't heard from Krishna. But then when he heard from Krishna, his doubts were cleared, and he was willing to perform unalloyed devotional service, which in his case took the form of fighting for Krishna. That's a great test. Unalloyed devotion, here Krishna is speaking about unalloyed devotion. So for Arjuna, it was either he followed Krishna's instruction and he had to fully surrender, or he was outside of bhakti, all or nothing. Such a great test. Such a great test. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, it had gone beyond just being nice to everybody and listening to everybody's opinion. They'd tried that. They'd tried. Krishna himself had tried to make a peace settlement with Duryodhana, but Duryodhana didn't accept. And the only alternative left was to fight. And of course Arjuna in the beginning didn't want to. But he was eventually convinced to do so by Krishna. He refused to fight on the basis of his own sense gratification, which appeared to be very moralistic, but Krishna revealed the faults in his moral outlook. And he left Arjuna with the choice, you fight and show. Are you my devotee? You want to follow my order? Or you don't fight and then you're disobeying me? It was a very severe test. We all are tested. We are all tested. We shouldn't become sorry when we get tests. difficulties are an opportunity for us to surrender to Krishna. Just like Arjuna, he had the chance. Will you face the difficulty with faith in Krishna, or will you avoid it? So when we say unalloyed, here Krishna is speaking of unalloyed devotion, and that will be tested. Krishna will test his devotees. So here Krishna is describing the position of the Supreme Lord and how he can be attained. It may appear to be repetitive. We'll find several places in Gita Krishna speaks of unalloyed devotion. This is just to emphasize the point. Those who are honest devotees, they can recognize that Bhagavad Gita is meant to teach us unalloyed devotion to Him. And the fact that Krishna can only be understood by pure devotion is made evident by those who are not devotees who misunderstand Bhagavad Gita. Krishna repeatedly says in Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam, ananya cheta satatam, manmana bhava madbhakto, bhaktya tvananyaya shakya, bhaktya mam abhijanati. Again and again he says, I can be understood by devotion. But non-devotees, they can't see this. You must have read in Science of Self-Realization, there was one Sanskrit scholar in America who was having some correspondence with Prabhupada. Dr. what's his name? Shal or something else? Stahl, yeah. So he was convinced that the message of Bhagavad Gita is sarva karma phalatyaga, giving up the fruits of one's work, which is a very primary stage in the gradual elevation within the Varnashram system. But because Dr. Stahl was not fortunate enough to have faith in bhakti or an inclination towards Krishna, he couldn't see beyond this. You may also know that this so-called self-named Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi, who has called himself a Maharishi. Funny thing is like someone, what's your name? Well, I'm Paramahamsa so-and-so. I mean, other people may call you that, but you shouldn't call yourself that. Anyway, so he also made an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 chapters only. Because according to him, the rest isn't important. You get as far as yoga and that's it. Of course, that Arjuna rejected Krishna's description of yoga, and that Krishna finished up the chapter by saying the topmost yogi is the devotee. Somehow or other they can't see. So the non-devotional commentaries on Bhagavad Gita prove the point that Krishna can only be understood by devotion, because there are many great scholars who can take the words of Bhagavad Gita and juggle them in so many different ways. They'll take some word, like here we have the word Purushaha, so they'll take the different syllables Purushaha, and they'll take different obscure meanings for each one of the syllables and then come up with some completely convoluted so-called explanation. So they may be brilliant scholars, but they are, as Krishna has said, fools and rascals. Avajananti mang mudha manushing tanamashritam. They think I am just an ordinary person who is now taking shelter of a human body. Their explanations may sound very plausible. You see that they're just like they may say that Ram shot Bali, the monkey king, while Ram was standing behind a tree. So Krishna, you see, he got his karma, he was shot by a hunter, and like this, they'll say so many very demoniac things. So you could say that they're scholars and they have analyzed Shastra very deeply, but because they're basically envious of Krishna, they come up with such explanations that are extremely envious. And even though they may be austere and devoted to studying Shastra, they go to hell for their envious explanations. Of course, just like this how Krishna apparently died from a hunter's arrow. Well, that Krishna explains himself in Bhagavad Gita, he never dies. Ajopi sanavyaya atma, avyaya atma, my form never deteriorates. And that is explained in the Bhagavatam itself when this disappearance of Krishna is described. That the hunter Jara was feeling very sorry that, oh, I shot you, Krishna, I've committed a great offense. And Krishna said, never mind, doesn't matter, it's all my Leela, I'm arranging it all anyway. I just wanted to have this little Leela just for the sake of the atheists. And anyway, it's time for me to go back to my own abode in my original spiritual form, and leaving an apparent material form to bewilder the atheists. So this is all stated in Shastra. If we are to accept that this Leela is described in Shastra, then we should accept the whole Leela and everything that goes with it. In other words, if we accept that Krishna was shot in the heel by a hunter's arrow, and then we should also accept why do we accept that? It's given in Shastra. If we accept that Shastric description, then we should also accept the Shastric description of Krishna himself explaining what is going on, which does not contradict his transcendental position. Just like some people, they complain, oh, Krishna is dancing with so many women, so many other people's wives. Then we may ask them, so you accept that Krishna is dancing with so many gopis? That means you accept the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam? If you're criticizing Krishna, you're criticizing on this basis, on what's stated in the Bhagavatam. And in the Bhagavatam, in the very same description, it's stated that Krishna expanded himself into one form for every gopi present. So you must accept that also. And in the same Bhagavatam, it's stated that Krishna, when just a child, apparently, he lifted a hill for 7 days and held it on the finger of one hand. So you should accept that also. And you should accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who came being prayed for by the demigods. In other words, if you want to criticize Krishna, you can only do so on the basis of what's stated in Shastra. But then you have to accept all the statements of Shastra about Krishna, which establish that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also establish that any rascal like you who wants to criticize Krishna goes to hell. So this is all on the point that Krishna can be understood by unalloyed devotion. And he will always be misunderstood by those who try to approach Krishna in any other way. Guaranteed they will misunderstand. It's because it is impossible to understand Krishna except by devotion. Krishna doesn't allow those who do not have an attitude of devotion to him to understand him. Matasmate jnanam apohanam cha. From me come memory, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So Prabhupada explained that if someone wants to forget Krishna, Krishna will give him the intelligence, he can forget him forever. Although Krishna tries very hard to reclaim the conditioned and envious souls, but he doesn't force them. And if they insist on being envious, then he lets them go to hell. He doesn't want them to go to hell, but if they insist, he allows them to. Although he delivers many, just like today, you have this very beautiful picture of Lord Vamandev being welcomed by the demigods. Of course the demons, they weren't so happy with him. Shukacharya was warning, this is Vishnu. Bali Maharaj said, oh, this is Vishnu? Oh, how nice. Shukacharya said, no, this is Vishnu. No, our enemy, Vishnu. The one who killed your great-grandfather's brother. The supporter of the demigods. Supporter of the demigods. You know, the demigods are the enemies. He's their main supporter. Don't be fooled, he's a very tricky fellow. The demons, we're expert in magic and tricks, but he's more expert than us. You'd be very careful now. And Bali Maharaj, he didn't hear any of this. He was thinking, oh, Vishnu has come, how wonderful. At last, my life is successful. He never thought that, I conquered the heavenly planets, and now my life is successful. He just thought, well, I'm the king of the demons, and they always want to conquer the heavenly planets, so okay, if they want, we'll do it. He wasn't personally very interested in heavenly planets. He was only interested in Krishna. But that was the position he found himself in, king of the demons. So Vamandev came, a very beautiful young boy, brahmachari, and see, even the demons, they may have affection. So when this Ratnamala, the sister of Bali Maharaj, first saw Vamandev, she thought, oh, what a beautiful young boy. It would be very nice if I could myself suckle at my breast such a nice young boy. So she was appreciating the beauty of Vamandev. She didn't know he was Vishnu at first. That became apparent later. And when she knew that, and when she saw he's cheated us, he made a fool of us again, then she wanted to kill him. So later she got the chance to try to kill him when she came as Putana. But Krishna killed her. But he remembered, oh, she was appreciating me. All right. She wanted to be my mother? Let her be my mother. So like that, many demons, they may, because Krishna is actually so overwhelmingly beautiful and wonderful, that even the demons, they may have some appreciation. Krishna comes to fight with demons, and they may appreciate, oh, he's a very good fighter. A fighter appreciates another fighter. So that appreciation helps them before their head gets chopped off. They appreciated him, and they get liberation. That's also described about Kaliya. He came and he saw Krishna. Oh, very beautiful. So he had some appreciation, although by nature he was very envious. But gradually, as Krishna wore him down, just by dancing on his hoods, and then eventually Kaliya, that little appreciation that developed, that he must be someone very special. I made some mistake in trying to kill him. So, like this, Krishna, he favors even many demons by his personal presence. So even some demons, they're so they're so nasty that they have. It's very difficult to evoke any appreciation of them, of Krishna in them. Probably. That's why Krishna, only if he comes himself, he can benefit the worst demons. Sometimes people say, oh, what kind of God is that? He's always killing people. But that is actually Krishna's great mercy on the demons, that he delivers them. So the Supreme Lord, here it's described in the purport, he oversees various Vaikuntha planets. And the forms who preside over these planets, they have various names, such as Purushottam. What does that mean? Yeah, the Supreme Person who is above all other persons. Trivikram, what does that mean? 3 steps. What kind of steps? Krama means step, Vikram means a special, Vishesha, not an ordinary step. So that's the name of Vamandev, whose name is also given here. Different forms in the Vaikuntha planets, they have different names. Trivikram, Vamana, different forms. What does Vamana mean? It means a dwarf, yeah. Literally means a dwarf. Just like we have Kurma avatar, Kurma literally means a Kapchap, tortoise. So another name given here is Keshava. What does that mean? There may be many, many meanings of these names. Well-known meaning is killer of them. Killer of the Keshi demon. And there's another meaning which is even better known. It may be I hadn't heard that. It may be, there may be many meanings. Kesh means what?
Hair.
Hair. So Keshava means who has?
Beautiful hair.
Very beautiful hair. Then another meaning is, this is given in the Bhagavatam. You remember? Translators? Ka refers to Lord Brahma and Isha refers to Lord Shiva. So who is the master of Brahma and Shiva? That's another meaning. Then Madhav, husband of the goddess of fortune. This is given in Prabhupada's Gita commentary, 1st chapter. Another meaning? It means who is it coming in the Madhu dynasty. We'll find 2, maybe 3 times in the Bhagavatam that the word is given Madhavo, which means the 2 Madhavas, means Krishna and Balaram. To Aniruddha, what's that? Of course that's a name for Krishna's who? Son? Is that right? Grandson. But also it means, Aniruddha means who cannot be stopped. Aniruddha. Unstoppable. Then Hrishikesha, that Prabhupada also explains in the 1st chapter of Bhagavad Gita.
Master of the senses.
Master of the senses. Sankarshana, anyone knows? Krishna means what?
Blackish or dark or black.
All attractive, that's the meaning I was looking for. So Krishna, Karshan, it means, it's a similar thing. Sankarshan means who attracts or who pulls everybody. The next name given here is Pradyumna, the etymological derivation of which I don't know. I wonder if anyone knows. We have to look at Dyumna and Pra. Then Sridhara. Shri means who? goddess of fortune. And Dhara means
bears.
one who holds or bears, yeah. One who embraces the Vasudeva.
Son of Vasudeva.
Son of Vasudeva. Another meaning? That's also, yeah, that, who is, what is that verse from Bhagavatam? Vasudeva Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam means pure goodness. It also means one whose vas, whose residence is everywhere. It means the all-pervading Lord, which has the all-pervading Supreme Lord. And Damodar, one who is bound around the belly, with the belly, Udara in stomach. So one who is bound up. And then Janardana is an interesting name. One who punishes and also one who sustains. Both meanings. So for the devotees, he's Janardana, and for the demons, he's also Janardana. Different function. Then Narayana.
There in Chaitanya
Charitamrita.
Ayana means the waters which hold or like shelter.
It means the shelter of all living beings.
Yeah. And
Padmanabha, one whose lotus, what? Eyes?
Navel.
Now we have lotus eyes is Padmaksha, Padmanetra, and so on. Padmalochan. And then we have Pada Padma, lotus feet. Padma Pani, lotus hands. Why is that? Because the eyes, the feet, the hands, they all are as beautiful as lotuses. So Padmanabha also means his navel is as beautiful as a lotus. But it also means he has a lotus coming out of his navel. Padma Pani can also mean that he's holding a lotus. So these are some of the meanings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Head God. You can't translate that properly.
Approximately.
Anyway, it seems they understand by the chuckling. Hare Krishna. Any question?
Can you explain more the difference between the offenders, impersonalists like Mayavadis who offend the Lord, and impersonalists like Shukadev Goswami or for Kumaras used to be?
The difference is that the Mayavadis, they are envious by nature. That when they hear about Krishna, they reject that. They're attached to their impersonal understanding, and they reject that there can be any understanding higher than this. Therefore they become envious of Krishna. Yes. So they've developed some impersonal understanding of transcendence, but they haven't got rid of the envy within their hearts. Whereas impersonalists like the Kumaras and Shukadev Goswami, they are actually very much purified within their hearts. It's simply they haven't had association of devotees. So when they do get association with devotees, and when they come in contact with the Supreme Lord, then automatically they become attracted. Mayavad particularly refers to those impersonalists who are coming in or following the ideas of Shankaracharya, who explain the Vedas in a misleading manner to deny the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas non-envious impersonalists are such transcendentalists who simply haven't had any information about the Supreme Personality of Godhead.